All right, so this question says, suppose that a phone that originally sold for $800 loses 3/5 of its value each year after it's released. Write the equation that represents the remaining value of the phone and write a fraction or a decimal that represents the annual decay. What is the cost of the phone in 2 years after it's released? We got a really jam-packed question here. So as we read our question, I expect that you are going to be annotating because this helps you pull out important information. So the phone is sold for 800. So that's going to be your initial value. It loses 3/5 of the value. So that's how much it's decaying. All right. So as we think about this, they say they want the equation that represents remaining value of the phone. And then we want the cost of the phone 2 years after it has been released. So that is what we want to focus on. All right. So as we do this, here we go. So when we look at the information that is given, well, we can recognize that the initial value of the phone was $800 and they told us that it lost 3/5 of the value. So if it's losing 3/5 of the value each year, how much of the value is remaining? And we do that by subtracting that 3/5 from one whole, and that gives us 2/5. And I know I haven't done this in the other explanations, but just for those of us who may be struggling, 1 is the same as 5/5. And if you're subtracting, that's 3/5. And that's how when you subtract, you're ending up getting 2/5 because this is one whole. All right. So we know that 2/5 remain. They ask us what is the cost of the phone 2 years after it has been released. So that's asking us what's the remaining value of the phone 2 years after the phone has been released, which means, or X in our equation that represents the remaining value is going to be replaced with 2. So our equation is y is equal to 800 times 2/5 raised to the x. And with that said, we're going to replace. So the cost of the phone 2 years after it has been released is going to be y is equal to 800 times 2/5 raised to the second power. That means you're multiplying 2/5 times 2/5. You can also do this as 0.4. And you just plug this in your calculator. So this is the same as 800 times 0.4 times 0.4. You plug that in your in your calculator and your answer is going to be $128. So just 2 years after purchasing this phone, the cost went from $800 to $128.